Why does it seem like the more you teach, the more overwhelming it's getting? Why does it feel like it never ends? Why, despite the fact that research on teaching and education has increased by triple in the last 50 years, why does it feel like teaching in the modern day is harder than it's ever been? I'm Dr. Justin Sung. I'm a former medical doctor, a qualified educator, and now a full-time learning coach and learning consultant. For the last decade, I've worked with students and teachers, both secondary and in higher education, tertiary institutions, on how they can improve their teaching and how we can promote ownership, motivation, focus, self-regulation of learners so that learners have better outcomes in this modern world. I specialize in bridging research and practice together, looking deeply at what the research is and then seeing how we can apply that and what issues or limitations there might be. I've worked with tens of thousands of students and thousands of teachers from all around the world in 120 plus countries. And I'm very fortunate to be in this position because teachers don't have a lot of time to look and trawl through all of the research, let alone constantly be updating their practice at a high frequency. On the other hand, researchers often don't have as strong roots on the ground working with the student day to day. I'm in the position where I can be the interface between both of these worlds. And what I've noticed is that there are several things that both students and teachers can do feasibly, realistically, without increasing the workload or making it impractical, that would improve outcomes. And in this short series of videos, I'd like to share with you some of the top findings from my years of experience and leave you with some really practical techniques and methods and perspectives that could help make your job easier and also help your student. When I first started working in the education space, I was still undergoing my medical training. Now, medicine, as I'm sure you're aware, is a very evidence-based specialty. There's lots of research going on, and doctors are always trained to look at the research and constantly update their practice. It's a research-driven profession. And so the standard for evidence is very high. But another thing is that in healthcare, we know that the person that can make the biggest difference for the patient is actually the GP or general practitioner or family doctor. They're the doctor that your family knows. They're the doctor that you see whenever you've got a small issue, as long as it's not a big emergency and then you have to go to a big hospital. Now, the problem is that in healthcare, there's all this research that's constantly being developed around what GPs and family doctors can do for patients. You've got arthritis, your GP can do something about it. You've got a flu, your GP can help you there. You've got pain in your back, pain in your head, pain in your knee, pain in your hands. Your GP can help you with this. And so there's all of this research around what can GPs do more to help their patients. And it's come to this bottleneck where it doesn't really matter what more research is being produced, because even what's already out there is impossible for GPs to handle. There are so many algorithms, so many pathways, and so many things for them to be thinking about that it's not practical to rely on the GP to do all of those things. And so what I see is a direct correlate with what's happening in education. There is all of this research around how to teach better, how to deliver a better lesson, how to be more personalized or tailored in your instruction and methodology to make sure that your pedagogy is as research-based as it could be, but it's getting overwhelming. Teachers are at the point where there are too many things that teachers need to do. There are too many problems to solve, and it's not possible, at least in the system and structure we have now, to do all of those things. And so yes, while research might have tripled in volume over the last 50 years, I think as teachers, we all know that the structures and systems that we are working in day to day, they have not become triple as efficient. They have not tripled in capacity to allow teachers to use that research. And so I take a slightly different view. Improving those systems and producing that research, are incredibly important pieces of work. However, it's not going to happen overnight. And right now, your learners and students, they still need to be served. It's not a perfect world, and it's not a perfect system. Teaching is not a perfect profession, and school is not a perfect place. We all know this. So what can we do within these imperfect parameters to at least give our students the best possible chance without completely overexerting yourself? And so one of the core concepts that I'll be focusing on, and you'll see this as a running theme throughout all of the videos, is that I want to give you techniques that transition the role of an educator from what is traditionally an educator-dependent relationship to an educator-inspired relationship. Here's what this means. Normally, for a lot of teachers, you can think of a student that you know you have to pull them constantly. They are stagnant and do not progress if you are not the one that is pulling them along. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of emotional willpower as well to continue to pull them along. It seems as though you are teaching them, but you're moving this heavy boulder uphill all the time. And as soon as you stop and you let that boulder go, it's just going to roll back downhill. And so a lot of the research is around how can educators push more efficiently. I take another perspective. Yes, while that's important, I think it's also important, maybe in some cases even more important, that we train the learners to regulate their own learning. And this is something that's called self-regulation of learning. A learner that's able to self-regulate is able to monitor their own learning. They can see what they're doing. They can see where things are going wrong. They can make adjustments to make sure that they reach their goal. And in this way, you and the student are both pushing together. And now the role of the educator is not simply to be the one that this student's progress depends on, but rather the role of the educator is to inspire and motivate and encourage, to direct, to guide, and to lead the student while they are the ones that are pushing. Now, different students have different capabilities, they have different backgrounds, different experiences, and so not all students can get to this perfect peak of self-regulation, overnight. It's not always an easy process, but I believe, and in my experience, I've seen that all students can benefit when self-regulation is promoted a little bit more as a priority. Not only do these students perform better academically, but they also engage with their learning more actively. That means that they're more engaged and present in and out of class. They're more motivated intrinsically about it. In fact, sometimes they even enjoy learning more. And these skills and attributes and mindsets extend past the classroom. When you're no longer their teacher, these are the skills and attributes that they carry on. And I think that is an incredibly powerful impact that an educator is able to make. Now, before I go through all of the different methods and the angles that I can introduce to you, I want to preface by saying that this is not going to be a complete coverage of everything. Learning and teaching are incredibly complicated, more complicated than most mainstream people out there realize. It's not going to be possible for me to cover every single aspect and dimension of this in just a few short videos. Even in the research space, there is so much we don't know. Learning in itself is not directly observable. It's not like a blood test where you go to your doctor, they do a blood test and they say, yes, you have this infection because I have the result. I can see the bacteria with my eyes. It's not like that. Often when we're measuring how effective learning is, we're looking at all these different outcomes and we're making an estimate, sometimes just a guess, about what is happening and what we can do about that. As a result, things progress very, very slowly. And it doesn't help that the system or the curriculum or the priorities and the policies are constantly changing whenever there's new government coming in, where there's new priorities, where there's new management, where there's new senior leadership. These are all things that make teaching incredibly difficult and challenging. And these are all the things that do impact our students as well. I'm not going to be able to cover all of those different factors. In fact, I don't even know if there is really a solution for all of those things until the systems start improving. Again, what I will be talking about is what we can do given that reality. What can we do to produce the best outcomes for our learners and hopefully the best outcome for your teaching experience as well?